I want to touch on two things. I want to first touch on gratitude with our spouses, because I think that's where it begins. I think if we can exchange and be grateful for one another, whether it's that we leave our socks out or we don't, or we empty the dishwasher or that we don't, that then feeds directly into our relationship with our children. So we know gratitude's important. We know it's important in our marriages. How do you three show gratitude to your spouse? And what do you do when you don't feel like they're grateful for your efforts? That's like a loaded 4-hour question. But Stephanie, where do you put that? What do you do in your mind? Because, you know, as wives, as women, there are times when we're doing things, and I've had the thought where it's like, you know what? I have picked that up 12 times today, and not a single person cares. Nobody cares.
Yes.
No one cares, right?
I feel like Sisyphus, like pushing that darn rock up the hill again, and it's just gonna roll freaking back down. It drives me freaking crazy. But I found with my husband, and it's taken many years. We're going to be 12 years in October, this month, and tomorrow. We're going to be 12
anniversary.
I remembered, everyone, for the record. It's tomorrow. We're going to celebrate 12 years.
Just in time.
Phew. But he's always told me, just be direct with me. And it's hard for me to be direct because, you know, what if, you know. So I've learned after many practice that if I am frustrated with something, or if he hasn't noticed something, that I just need to go, hey, honey, look what I did. Because he does that with me. Like if he did something great, he built something. He'll come, honey, come look at what I built. And I'd be like, great. Cool. But I realized I have to do the same thing if I want that recognition. I'll just be like, hey, you know, did you notice the house is all nice and tidy for once? And he will appreciate me because sometimes he doesn't notice. But the other thing I do to show my appreciation to him is often I will tell my daughters, I'm like, Daddy works so hard, and he has been able to provide this. Or maybe we shouldn't buy this today because, you know, Daddy works really hard to make sure we can have a roof over our heads and that kind of thing. And so I'm teaching my daughters that these things that they have, this home, the clothes, the things that they have don't come freely. They come from hard work. And that, in turn, shows them to be grateful. So when he gets home, they run to him. They hug him. They're so excited to see him. And he, in turn, hugs all of us and gives all the girls attention in the house because we desperately need it. But he likes to be touched and held, and so I will do that and express, you know, we're so glad that you came home, and we're so glad that all the things that you've done. And he likes to get his back scratched, so that's one way to show my appreciation. So I'll sit there and scratch his back.
So I think right now that, Stephanie, what you've just said is so powerful, especially in a time when television, media, movies, everything shows a lot of wives, is bad mouth the right word? Not so much saying positive things about their husbands, right? And lots of times they're in jest, but nevertheless that has a huge impact on children and their approach and their feelings towards their parents. And so I love this idea that first and foremost, one of the best ways is by helping your girls see and become grateful for all that their dad is doing. I don't know of a better way to show gratitude to our spouse than helping those around him also sense that same gratitude. I think that's so powerful. I love that. Okay, Jill, what about Jill's got her hand up now. Jill, let's hear it. I feel like I'm at school. This is great.
We're so obedient.
I know you are. You very respectful.
I've had lengthy conversations with my friend about this because, I mean, we could be doing all of these things to show gratitude for our husband. Like we can be cleaning the house and vacuuming or, you know, doing these things, and then they just don't get it, right? So we have talked a lot about love languages. I think it's really important to find out what shows love. What does love mean to my husband? So Stephanie said, my husband loves his, you know, his back scratched. Well, you know what? Mine does too. Like, he doesn't care about me, you know, vacuuming. And Matt Townsend talks a lot about this, about, you know, just you got to speak their language. You could be doing all of these things, and they don't even look at it and even see. You're like, you totally don't love me. It's like, what? I took care of your children and made you dinner and, you know, did these random acts of kindness.
And washed your underwear every day.
I've done all these things. I love you, you know. And really all he wants is whatever, a back scratch, you know?
Sure.
So I think it's important to learn what their love language is so that you can serve them in a way that they're going to recognize it and feel love. And then I think then they're more grateful for the things, you know, the other little things that you do. The other thing I want to say is I think whatever we focus on grows. So if we keep seeing the sock on the floor or the clothes that are in the pile and we're constantly, you know, then we're going to feel ill about our husband, and we're not going to be grateful for all the other things that he does. All we're going to do is hone in on all the things he doesn't do. And so I think it's human nature to do that, but I think what we have to do is we have to bite our tongue. And something that I've done over the years is just kind of run through the list of all the things that I'm grateful. Gosh, I'm so grateful that he knows how to work hard, that he'll go and put in a 10-hour day and won't complain. I'm thankful that he's such a good example, and I'm so grateful that he's a good example to my children, you know, of what it means to serve others and those types of things. So if we focus on those things instead of the sock on the floor, I think that that's how you show gratitude and love for your husband.
Sure. We're again back to that perspective, right? To be willing to put our energy and effort towards things of gratitude instead of everything else, to look that way. It reminds me, this is an example I use in class, and I think we talked about it last week or the week before on our hangout, but we all remember Tool Time, right? I'm sure it's still on reruns, and it makes such a good point because Tim always gave Jill, his wife, what did she get for anything? Holidays, birthdays, she always got power tools, right? Which she didn't want. Who wanted the power tools? He did. And it's a really good reminder, as silly as it is, oftentimes we deliver our love or our gratitude towards our spouse and our children the way we want it instead of the way they receive it. And that's tricky to do, to take a step back and say, oh yeah, I would love it that way, but you know what? My husband, he would actually like it differently, and we have to give it the way they want it instead of the way we want it. That gets really tricky sometimes to kind of do that. Yeah, to do that. Okay, Megan, what do you think? Your spouse.
My spouse.
Tell us. Spectoralist, tell us.
Well, I was on Pinterest once, and there was this board, and this woman had pinned all the things you could do to show your husband that you loved him. And it was, like you were saying, actually probably a lot of things I'd like done for me, whether it was, like, you know, a fancy French dinner or or having the house spotless. And the board had been pinned by somebody else, and they were like, yeah, all my husband wants is sex. Like, that is how he wants me to be grateful to him. And the first time I read it, I was a newlywed, I was like, that is ridiculous. Oh, she's just made her husband so one-dimensional. Of course he wants the beef bourguignon, and like, what is this lady talking about? And I was outraged, but I actually decided that it was a really, well, she's probably right, but it did open my eyes that you do have to understand your spouse's love language. So Riley, he is not a poet. He is not going to write sonnets for me, as much as my terms of what is romantic lean that way. Riley is action. He is the most romantic person I know, but the way that he is romantic is if my computer is broken and I need to put up my post for the next day, he will not go to bed until he's fixed my computer. I mean, so that, and his love language probably is sex. I think that that's every man's love language, and so I have had to, but as I've understood how he shows his appreciation to me, I have tried to find ways to show my appreciation for him, and yeah, sometimes that's in the bedroom, but other times it's, you know, making his favorite food or calling when I know that he's having a hard day. But I feel like when you're grateful, you are able to turn a blind eye to some of the things that wouldn't have bothered you the first year of marriage. They just bother you 7, 8, 15, 20. But I think it's okay. I saw in one of our comments, somebody said, like, is there ever a time when it's beneficial to be ungrateful?
Right, right.
And I think that that is something to bring up in marriage. You do not have to be satisfied with everything. And you do not have to, if it really just drives you crazy that he puts dishes in the sink with food stuck to it, that's something you can have a conversation about. Yes. I just think that before you have that conversation, you need to find out, you need to approach it with love and tolerance, and you can approach that conversation with gratitude because he's doing something else that you like. You need to approach yourself with gratitude, and then have a discussion about the way that you guys can change things because I think that but you need to allow your husband to do that too. I think as women we nod our heads to that and we're like, yeah, totally, I'm gonna tell him what I want to change. But if your husband comes to you with something that he would love for you to change, even if he does it with love and gratitude, I think the last time my husband brought that up, I raised a cooking pan and threatened to like hit him with it. I'm like, be open to that because we're supposed to edify and build each other up and help each other discover our true essence. Like that's what marriage is about, right? So it's okay to have, those little interviews with each other once in a while. Just do it with love and no recrimination.
Well, and again, like you said, we have to be willing to hear it, just like we have to be excited to say it or willing to say it, right? Sometimes there's some excitement behind, look, I want to see this different. But the other thing, too, is if we go back to kind of where Jill started us with this, it's also deciding, look at all these things I'm grateful for that he does do. Do the dishes really matter? Right. And it's funny because that perspective all of a sudden makes things clear again, right? It kind of clears things up. I had that discussion with my husband not too long ago. He'll put it in the sink but not in the dishwasher. And I don't understand that because I don't understand it. And I remember saying something and he said to me, it was like, I appreciate the feedback, but I'm not so sure I can guarantee it's going to change, like, right now. Like, it was a reprogram, right? And as I walked away from the conversation, that's what I thought. I thought, you know what? I probably didn't even need to discuss it. Is that big of a deal? Look at this man. He works all day. He does this all day. He's a great father. He's a great... Right. And I care about that, the dishes. Right. It's the new perspective. And it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter.
And I'm going to rearrange it anay, so...
I know.
Yeah, and you never one of those.
I think he's actually doing the dishes. I had to make that one up. He's the one that wishes I would rinse off the dishes. Have a conversation with me.
I love that you just said you made that up. And I really love that Stephanie just said
something everyone would relate to.
Well, I had a friend once that she would always complain about her husband, and I felt like I needed to be a good friend and do the same thing. So I started looking for things to criticize about my husband. And it got to the point so bad that there was a conversation I had with my parents where I was like, maybe we shouldn't be together. And my parents are like, whoa, you need to take a step back. And then I realized what I was doing. And as soon as I stopped doing that, I mean, it's all about perspective. It's what we focus on. And if we care and we love this person enough, we'll realize that these little things don't matter and that we can talk to each other. Like Meg says, we need to have those conversations. We need to talk to each other. And we need to realize what is most important. We're working towards a goal together. What is our goal? Let's focus on it and be together on this.